Did, that house next to, you
Any seconds, but
go all months, they get on that one, that, I didn't. It's not in the zone. and it's 1.57. Oh, I see. Yeah, no, the last 2 days it hasn't.
Okay, well,
And I went on,
Mr. Mayor,
okay. Good evening, we'll call to order the Revere School Committee of the whole 5 PM meeting. We'll all rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The tenants we have remotely participating, Ms. Stacy Rizzo. Yeah. Mr. Fred Snella, Mr. Anthony Caggiano, Ms. Aisha Milray Ellis, Mr. John Kingston, and Ms. Jacqueline Monterosso. We can go over the approval of the minutes. Any tax warrants? No, nothing. No, sir. Financial reports, 25.
Yes.
Mr. Cruz.
All right, so we have 2 financial reports that are given to you normally in the August meeting each year. They're both backward looking to make sure that the previous fiscal year was done correctly and have a bead on how what our plan was last year went. So that's what these 2 reports are about. The first one is the final financial report for the school committee. So you've gotten quarterly reports up to this point. Here's the final one for the year. The most important note here is that we spent within the bounds of the series appropriation vote.
I just want to make sure everybody has the right packet, because they might have been reversed in the packet, so this is
Okay.
the stapled document.
Thank you.
Yep, right, this one's called Final Financial Report for School Commission. So the most important thing here is that we stay in accord with what we had voted when we did the budget. And you can see that we did that. There were some razor thin margins this year. But we were able to stay within those series votes without having to do budget amendments to baseline accounts in this way. And then I added a few other notes at the bottom, just so you are aware of what you're looking at. But happy to answer any questions if there were any on the final financial report for fiscal 25.
Ms. Monterosso.
I'll just say the notes you put at the bottom were really helpful, so if you would like to do that moving forward, it helps a lot to just have that overview of things pulled out.
Now, what was,
So, yeah, what was the final for carryover to from last year's budget to this one? Was it,
That's coming up next.
Well, that,
okay,
The prelim
I
card.
apologize. I apologize.
all right, so again, the final financial report is somewhat anticlimactic. Because we've been talking about any issues regularly since October. This is just to say, hey, we addressed them and we spent in accord with what the desire of the committee was. And nothing spiraled out of control in the last 3 months of the fiscal year. So that's kind of a. Yes,
And so all of the prior votes that we had are reflected within here, although they're not spelled out.
You mean the votes around,
The cuts and the-
so that
the
would,
adjustments.
that would be for the FY 26 budget?
Okay.
And this is a summary of the
Going
FY
backwards.
25.
Okay, thank you.
and it should be an anticlimactic report. The only thing that would make it climactic would be if something very unexpected happened in the last 90 days of the fiscal year. And we were ahead of all things, so that's why I was kind of a boring report. All right, now to the other question. So the other 1-page report is just a projection. It says projected carry forward FY 25 into 26.
It's a single sheet.
It's the single sheet in the packet. So this is us saying, hey, we were trying to manage the previous fiscal year in such a way so that there was some carry forward that would flow through to make the FY 26 budget work. So the most important note here is that we are trending to meet or exceed the $5.25 million that was specified in the FY 26 budget as anticipated carry forward. And so this is always tricky to know in March or April
Mhm.
what will happen in August. So we try to ballpark it conservatively, but to not leave anything on the table with our projection. So 5.25 is what the committee voted, saying we are confident that we'll have at least that much flow through. And this is a preliminary report because the fiscal year hasn't been closed out in the accounting system just yet. But we highlighted the net school spending eligible projected preliminary carry forward amount. And that's tracking at the 5.4. So we have, a little bit more than we had needed in order to make the budget go. And I'm pretty confident that that will be the number once the fiscal year is closed up. There was a bunch of other notes down in here, but don't forget that we've committed over $6 million to the McKinley renovation project happening. So we're just showing that the money that we have not encumbered or spent yet in the project is not vanishing. That it's identified and clarified in the
Is
city.
that in capital spending?
Yep, the city, it's in a capital outlay account. The city is in concert with us on the accounting for it. But a big part of FY 25 was us making the commitment to that. And so a bunch has been spent, a bunch is unspent, but we will not lose track of that. And then you can see there's a column that says non-eligible. So the city infuses our budget with money to spend on city responsible things like transportation. And so then we go throughout the year, if purchase orders close under, or there's surpluses in certain accounts, that column of carry forward flows back to the city, reverts back to free cash. So that's where we're showing you that amount, so that we're also synced with the city, so that they know how what they gave to us was spent in the fiscal year.
And that's the 594,000 that you see in the second column.
And then, most likely, I can't predict a 10-year future, but this will be the last time that we see a $10 million figure for district reserve. Because we've committed about 2 million of that for this year, and we'll see what happens in January, but likely to do more next year. So this is just showing you it's not banished. The accounting is clear on it. It's gonna flow through and it will begin to be mobilized next year. So when you put all these pots together of a huge district like ours and all the different things that we're working, the carry forward figure on the books looks large, but I wanted you to have a clear vision of all the different smaller buckets that go into the big one. And again, anticlimactic is good with the numbers. We're not saying, oh man, we only carried forward $4 million of net school spending required eligible funding. So we've hit all of our marks that we were talking about in earnest in the spring.
Good.
And I'll just add that, as is typically our practice, we should have the final confirmed carry forward number late September, early October, and usually at the October meeting is when we would say, here's the amount that we have available to spend, and the committee would make a decision if they want to spend any of that. I think in this troubling financial climate, I would suggest that we let that money flow through, so that we have it for the following year. But if something came up in the meantime that we really needed to address, there'd be that couple of $100,000 that's above the 5.25 that we've already committed. Because we committed 5.25 in the current year budget, but we're at that 5.470 anticipated carry forward. So we could think about if we wanted to use some of that money or just let it flow through, usually around your October meeting.
Okay.
Right? October or November? October, right?
It should be October.
Thank you, man.
Ms. Montrosa.
So this final amount of 15 million really isn't that once we kick in what we took to balance the budget for the next fiscal year.
What, that 15,479,99 is what will be available, which is good. We've already committed 2 different pieces of that funding.
Yes.
We've committed 5.25 for classroom teachers from the natural carry forward. And then we've committed,
1.8, I think, or 1.75.
1.7 or 1.8 from the district reserve. So if all else equal, sitting here next year, the district reserve number will say 8 and not 10. And we'll see how all the rest of the things have flowed.
I see, okay, and then. So we are giving back to the city around 600,000 because we didn't use it.
That's right. So that 600,000 is the city put into our budget money to spend for them for transportation. For capital needs that may come up. So as we operate both the year we're in and close out purchase orders from the previous year that may not have been fully liquidated. Any surplus that amasses there, obviously it reverts back to the city because they were the ones that put the money in the
Does
budget.
the school, knowing that the city is present, but like, does the school district ever see, okay, we have this much left, we should try to spend it on things we need that are applicable instead of giving it back to the city, because I know needs are always there.
It can only go towards a certain, sorry to interrupt, it can only go towards a certain pool, it's what is not, so it's part of the Schedule 19 agreement. So some of it is transportation, some of it could be employee benefits, could be, so it's not like you take the money and say, let's put it into, it could be capital improvements, which again, we're planning on doing some elevator work and stuff, so some years it could be leaner, some years it could be a little bit more. But you can't just take that money and say, let's put it into something that was required, school spending. So there's always a little, 1 year, like 2 years ago. We instead of taking the money back, we kind of did a trade-off, and I think we did the Ambrose Field replacement, correct?
The soccer field.
Yeah, correct, the soccer field, so it tends to always get back into the good purposes of all of the city, but they can't just say, let's draw it down from that account to pay teacher salaries, or,
Anything that's
Anything
not on
outside of
Schedule
Schedule 19.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the health insurance is a good example because when we're doing our Schedule 19 negotiation, typically around January, February, we're anticipating the people that we're gonna hire over the summer. And when we figure out what amount of money we think that we have to pay the city for employee health insurance, it's kind of a guess, right? And so if we anticipate that we're gonna hire, and this year is a little bit different because we didn't do the level of hiring that we typically do. But if I go back a year, we hired over 80 new staff members last year, a year ago, right? And so we try to anticipate using historical data, how many of them are gonna take a family plan, which costs about $25,000 each, right? And so if we're off by 20 people, that right there is gonna give you the number that you're seeing be returned. If 20 of those employees come back and say, I don't need the family plan, or my partner carries the insurance, or I'm just single, then you can see those numbers add up pretty quickly, but what we have to do is anticipate what they're gonna be in advance, because what we don't wanna do is get caught short pocketed.
and then go
So-
into December or January, have to ask for more money.
Yeah.
But just, and it also as an example, it'd be the same as if the $10 million carry forward. If the city was to try to sweep that, there would be probably a very contentious conversation that wouldn't bode very well for either side. So we try to keep it without, we don't wanna make the school spend quicker than they should, just because it's there, and we want them to be responsible. And the same goes to the city side, because
You don't just spend it, spend it.
yeah, we don't wanna just spend it. And so we make our decisions based on that, but most of it's because of we budget the beginning of the year with 12 months to figure out. We don't wanna ever come short and have these years where we go in front of everyone in January, and that's why the snow and ice deficit doesn't exist anymore. Like, you can carry a deficit on snow and ice, you really can't carry a deficit on anything else. And because it'd be very embarrassing to say, hey, we didn't budget properly, we're coming in for more money, and it would look foolish, so we'd rather go a little heavier and then have that slip back into a reserve and then adjust for the following year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question, though.
And the only other thing to keep in mind as you read these is we're all normal people with normal lives. And when we look at these financial statements, it's such a massive enterprise that we're involved in. So $594,000 strikes us as enormous, of course it does. But with a $14 million transportation program across 2 fiscal years to close out POs or have surpluses that weren't used to this tune is not irresponsible out of the ordinary, considering how much we're beginning with.
I appreciate you explaining that, cause I see that, I'm like, how much does like a bus cost? Like, could we get another, so, but it is all in perspective compared to the day-to-day versus managing the whole school district.
And
And this was last year.
Yeah,
correct, and city reserves do just that too. They have to get put back into the free cash. They don't get, kind of carry forward for the following year. Yeah, they could, but some of it goes into the Affordable Housing Trust, some of it goes into the school building trust, some of it goes into capital improvements. All of that, those pockets that we put them into for good planning, which sometimes turn back, but I can guarantee you this year, capital improvements in the school outside of a new school are gonna probably exceed $500,000. Elevators
The
alone.
big one is gonna be the elevators, the
Elevators
back
alone,
end, which
you know,
thankfully, the mayor's office has already committed to putting into the capital planning budget because they all three need to be replaced. And we're spending about $50,000 right now just to make sure that they can get us through the time period until they can be replaced. And again, that $50,000 is money. One of the line items you've seen on Schedule 19 is a capital improvements line item of $100,000 that the city gives us every year in case something happens. And so already half of that is committed to the work we need to do just to make sure the elevators are functional for the beginning of the school year. We're gonna have at least one up and functional, then we're gonna do a minor repair on a second one. And then ultimately, it'll probably take a year in the planning process to design the redevelopment of all three. And as the mayor said, that's probably about $500,000.
thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jackie, Ms. Montrosa.
So typically I would have a food services financial wrap up of the operating year. But we have a transition to food service management companies and the last claim has not hit the books yet. So we'll kick that to September and look at that. And don't forget at the main meeting to vote in approval of student activities so that we can operate those this year.
And just if anybody had any questions on those while Matt's here, that's the next stapled packet in your,
The student activities,
the student activities, yeah, it has a cover memo from Matt that looks like this.
Right, basically, the idea here is any student activities need the oversight, involvement, permission, awareness of the school committee so that no one gets jammed up in 3 months saying, oh, I didn't know that club was going to exist. What is it about? This is a formal way of saying, here's the clubs on the roster. And then as the year develops, we can pilot a club different than having permission formally granted for the club to be set up in the accounting system. So we do this each year in August. So the schools are free to do their thing.
And the elementaries and the middle schools typically wait until the start of the school year to talk to students and finalize what their clubs and activities are gonna be. Some of them are carried over every year, like the theater program at the Susan B. Anthony, I promise you, is going to run. We're actually working, Director Williams is working on an elementary theater arts program that would be district-wide. And we put a little bit of separate funding aside for that. And we're just trying to build that pipeline from elementary up into middle and then up through the high school. So that's in the works, but the high school determines their clubs in the spring. They talk to the kids in the spring about what clubs are gonna run the following year. And so that's why you have a full list of what the clubs and activities are for the high school, but not for the other schools.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Mr. Mayor,
sure. Mr.
through
Smith.
the superintendent, in allocating funding, was enrollment taken in consideration because they're all the same amount of money?
Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
So what you're approving there is not funding per se. It's the maximum allowable balance to be available immediately to any school in their local checking account. So there are controls in place that if one school had a very vibrant student activity programs and lots of funding was coming in, they can't have access to 10, 20, 30, $40,000 immediately in their local account. So they keep the difference on deposit in an agency account managed by the treasurer at City Hall. And this gives them enough operating leeway to do what they need to on a daily basis. So it's set at, is it 10?
10.
Straight
10.
down,
Except for the high school.
except the high school.
75.
Because the high school would run into just the prom could be a $40,000 reimbursement that they need. But if we do run into any requests of local schools saying, I need access to more than $10,000 at a time, then I can come to you and request an increase. But the 10 is ample for the middle schools and more than ample for the elementary schools. It doesn't mean that they all operate the same volume of money through their programs. The Susan B would have a much more active student activity world than, say, the Paul Revere.
Thank you.
All right, if anyone wants to come help us get 1,100 people accurately on the payroll for next week, come say hi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Kingston.
Two things. Could the food service director come before us next month, just for a week?
Yes, definitely. They were just named last week. so,
Yeah, no, I figured this month was too high. Okay,
Well-
that's number one. Number two, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Mayor. Where are we at with the McKinley? We on track or? are we-
Yes, so they did,
It was brought up, so I figured, I know. it's
they,
on the
yeah, no
agenda,
problem.
but
They
it's-
did,
it's in the
I'll
running.
give you a quick rundown. They did, some asbestos remediation and, a small demo interior. They're removing, what looks to be former oil tank in the ground by the parking area. Good news is on that, the oil tank doesn't seem to have any contamination, beyond what's inside the contained tank. So that'll be removed out of the premise. And the larger scale demolition bid is going out, so there's some McKinley bids coming back on the 28th.
Oh, great.
And then some work will really start swinging probably late fall and then going into the winter. From a zoning perspective, you may have seen part of the program, of course, is outside of the school side, is the 911 center, which is a third of the building. There's a conversation about the size of the antenna tower that is needed.
That's my second question. Yeah.
Right, so it's needed, and that's where,
Yeah.
you know, it's not something that anyone really loves to have, but I can assure everyone it'll be safe, it'll be reasonable, and it's not unheard of adjacent to a public building, school, and of course, a 911 call center, and it's mostly the height needs to reach Winthrop and Chelsea and the destinations in Revere. Oh, even destinations in Revere needs to hit. So, think about the geography of our community where you have some areas that are very high and some areas that are very low. So the size, certainly isn't something that everyone's totally excited about, but that's what the studies have said, and that's what the safety experts are requiring. And that's what state 911 is requiring, more importantly, because they're gonna be footing the bill for most of this entire project that benefits all of the three uses. And I'll just remind everyone, it is next to a lumber yard. It's facing a lumber yard. That's probably great business, love them, very nice people. Probably one of the most aggressive businesses in the residential area in all of our community, but it's an active lumber yard in the middle of a residential street, across from a former school, across from another current school. So I didn't think that the most intrusive use will be the city's use, and I'll stand by that.
I agree with you. Thank you, sir.
Patrick, have you got all your tenants in line? Last time we talked, others were coming in as a
So
capacity.
the school,
No, the McKinley, you were
Right.
talking about.
so yeah, so
Kitchen or
yes,
something.
there is the food hub was just not gonna make the most sense for the use and for some of the sanitary needs and also for some of the deliveries, and we felt that that would be a more intrusive use, so the intention is to move the parking department and some other city hall type office space into there. That would be a savings. In the long run, we currently pay rent for our parking department. It's not owned by the city. So we'd be able to save on that monthly rent and move the parking space into the basement level of the McKinley School, and potentially a few other offices that are currently paying rents. So that's the design. We're gonna design it into office use and administrative use, which will be helpful because, as you know, we've become a little limited on space, but the goal is to save money in the long run and help cover the cost of these improvements.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
So communications, the discard old broken RPS technology. I don't know if you want to speak to that. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Sure, this is the annual request from Jonathan Ferrara to get rid of any devices that are no longer repairable or resaleable. He does a great job. He does his due diligence to see if they can be donated anywhere. And does all of that work first and then so it's just items that can't be reused in any way that he's seeking permission to get rid of.
And if I can just go back, one other question that came up just regarding the antenna for the communication for 911. There is no intention to use it for other means or subleases and things like that. It's for the city's use for 911 operations. I know that some people get nervous about cell phone companies and things like that. Yeah, I'm not looking, I think anyone will be looking to do that. It's gonna be for the sole purpose of the city and the emergency response.
Thank you.
I'm glad that we were able to address that.
And if I could, Mr. And just to remind the audience that there will be 8 early childhood classrooms there, and that's why I asked about it, because that's exciting to me.
Right.
And well, it's exciting to everyone, but it's, I don't know, early childhood's a huge thing, and I'm looking forward to having more space. So thank you, and thank you for your work on that
No,
project.
my pleasure, and this is stuff that's been long overdue, and we're excited. I remember when they closed the school, and everyone remembers they closed the school. The initiative was to turn it back into public use quickly and save on rental costs and all that, and use it for administrative space. Obviously, 10 years, 12 years, it's gone vacant. And it's good to get something back in there, and we just had to find a way to pay for it. And we've gotten a multi-purpose use that's able to spread out the costs. Some ESSER funding from the schools, some 911 grant money that's gonna cover a big chunk, and then the city will encumber the rest, and which is not a lot of money on the grand scheme of things. So we're excited to do it. I'll be happy to have that space open, and then what we'll do, and I'm talking to the superintendent, is by freeing up some other space in our other schools, it'll afford us the opportunity to keep more of our students from being outplaced. And again, net savings and net benefit to the residents of Revere, all of the residents, non-school and school residents. So there's a lot of good planning in place here that's gonna be a big win.
Definitely.
Right.
And what I can do is at the September meeting, have an update on the McKinley as well. I know we've just recently, I think yesterday, maybe even, or today, signed the contract amendments with Cambridge 7. So they're digging more into the detailed design of what the space is gonna look like as a whole, but in particular, the early childhood center, John, like you were saying. And the playground space, one of the state requirements for us to have a certified early childhood center is that there's adequate outdoor play space for the kids. And so we've been having conversations with them about making sure that we're meeting those guidelines, and I can put that on the agenda as an item for the September meeting. We should have some better drawings. I did film today with Paul Amato and John Linz, my welcome back message to staff, and included in that is gonna be a couple of rough diagrams of the McKinley space, but hopefully by the September meeting, we should have some more detailed renderings that we can present then.
Thank you.
Okay, enrollment update.
So I'll just briefly say it's the same story that we've had for a number of years. Class size is looking very good. The one place that is troubling and not, we do much better than a lot of other districts do, but the Paul Revere still has high class size. If you look at their numbers at, grade 5, the average is at 26.
Mhm.
At grade 4, it's 25.3, so let's call it 26. Other than those two spots, everything is looking good.
And we did put a pair, excuse me, through Mr. Mayor. Last year, I remember we hired paras, they'll
That's
come
right,
back, right?
to assess, yep,
Just to tell the parents there is a para with the teacher, because there's nothing we can do about the
yeah.
class size at this
Yeah.
point.
And I still think, I mean, we would like to be below 25 for all of the classrooms, but, you know, we're close. And we do still have those paras, John, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I just want, so the parents know that, you
Mhm.
know, what did you do about it?
Yep.
Or what did you try to do again?
Ms. Monteroso.
Thanks. Could you, Dr. Kelly, could you just explain?
So the pre-K kids are typically new students. We do have a 3-year-old program and a 4-year-old program. So it could be that some of the 4-year-olds are in their second year of pre-K. So they might be included in there, but we try to make this be a little bit more readable for the school committee and for the community when they see it in the meeting minutes. And look at how each of the different classroom sizes are running right now. So if you look at the Beachmont Ignite program, and again, the early childhood programs are geared toward addressing the special needs for different groups of kids.
So, okay, so this whole top section is the number of students in the different programs.
Correct.
Okay, I
So-
wasn't sure if that meant there was like new students per grade or what this top part was.
Yeah, so like, just to be clear, at the Beachmont Ignite program, their first classroom in the morning has 9 kids. That same classroom in the afternoon has 7 kids.
Okay, and then our pre-K classrooms, are they all full? Do we have wait lists? What does
We-
the demand look like?
We have some space open, so the maximum class size that you can have in an integrated early childhood classroom is 12.
Okay.
And so you can read off of that. There are some spaces open. We always do intentionally leave spaces open at the beginning of the year, because if new students enroll in the district who have IEPs, we need to have a space to put them in. And so we do leave some flex room at the beginning of the year. Those seats will fill up in the next couple of weeks.
So the Hill, where it says Hill/Propel, does that mean we have no students in pre-K at the Hill School?
That's right. So the pre-K programs are at Beachmont, Garfield, and Lincoln.
Okay. And then our preschool programs, do we have space for general ed students as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That was,
Diane,
Mr. Snow.
looking at the numbers again, Beachmont's low.
Mhm.
I still find it hard to believe when we offered parents from the Pines to continue on to Beachmont that there were no takers. I mean, you're looking at grade 4, you've got 51 students, but you got 3 teachers.
Mhm.
So if you had 2 teachers, it would be 26 and 25, which would bring you up to the Paul Revere numbers.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem the equity there doesn't. I mean, nice, 17, that's great, but I know space is tight. There's gotta be some way of, I mean, can the bus continue on to Beachmont, maybe bring some 4th graders, some 2nd graders and something like that?
So as part of the work that we're doing with the city's planning department, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later in the meeting when we get to number 3 with the lottery and transportation update. In addition to looking at the middle schools and how we might organize those into neighborhood schools, they're also looking at the Beachmont/Paul Revere to see if we can shift that neighborhood. Exactly as you said, Fred, maybe we make the kids that live so far out, is that Beachmont, the Point of Pines? In Oak Island, in that area, rather than make them be part of the Paul Revere neighborhood, they could become part of the Beachmont neighborhood, because we're putting them on a bus anyway, right?
That's what I'm saying.
So
If
like,
they're on
exactly
it,
like
why
you're saying,
can't-
right?
Well, for September, why can't it start, whatever planning is being
Monday?
planned?
School starts Monday,
Tuesday, right?
Tuesday.
I mean, who decided on
December
adding the 3rd teacher to Beachmont? with 51 kids. Who decided on adding a third teacher there to bring the number down to 17?
It's been 3 teachers for a long time. We
But
actually.
that doesn't mean
removed-
it has to stay 3 teachers. I mean, it's a luxury that, I mean, you 25 kids in a classroom and 17. Well, it was always 3, so if it were 48 kids, you'd still
Well,
have
no,
3
no,
teachers.
it wasn't always 3. For the longest time, the Beachmont had 2 classrooms at every level. And as our enrollment was increasing, we started adding 1 at each grade level. And I agree with you that 17 is a great class size to have. I think the difference between 17 and 25 or 26 is significant. And then if you have 3 or 4 kids move into the district during the course of the year, but you've only got 2 classrooms, now you're adding 2 to your 26, so now they're at 28. And it doesn't give you that kind of flexibility. I'm not saying that we shouldn't reconsider the class sizes at the Beachmont, but I think that as long as we can financially sustain having 3 classrooms, that's great for kids to be in a room of 17 instead of a room of.
All right, on that premise, then you're assuming Parvia is not gonna get any more transfers in. So their numbers could go to 27.
I'm not assuming that. I worry about the Paul Revere
Yeah, that
every
should be
year.
the
If
whole
we had
estimate.
one more closet to turn into a classroom, we would do it,
Right.
There's no
but we
space.
don't.
When we are revisiting the transportation and the lottery and
Mhm.
those issues, I would like to also think about a cap on the Paul Revere school. Or having just exploring the idea of having a cap. I don't like the idea of sending 4th and 5th graders that have been at that school their whole life to a brand new school to finish off like their last year.
Oh, I
Or
would
their last
agree.
two.
I, and
There would
I,
have to be new ones, kids coming in that we're at
Yeah.
our max, we can't take any more,
Right.
you have to go to this other school.
yeah,
That's
and I know that in the past, when they've changed district lines at the elementary level, they've grandfathered the kids who already go to that school.
Okay,
And it starts from anybody who wants to move now,
right,
and any new students enrolled will be assigned to
Each
the new
one.
place.
okay.
So it'll still take a few years to work its way through, but you're right, Fred, like, let's get moving on it.
Yeah, I think the focus should be the Paul Revere school though, and the excessive number of kids as opposed to the beach
Yeah.
one, just shifting them.
You did cut and I'm not complaining, I'm just make observation just for everybody's, so everyone remembers. We did cut a 5th grade at the Beachmont.
That's right, that's
To the
what I'm
num-
saying, when
No,
we
no,
went
I'm
up to
just saying,
3s.
I'm just saying, so to Mr. Sinella's point, we did.
Yeah, we're not ignoring the class size
No,
yet,
I was just trying to point out that there
Yeah.
was a cut there already.
right? And that one was an even more appropriate cut, to his point, they're still only at 21, even though we've cut a teacher, like, we are paying attention to those pieces, but we're trying to be thoughtful and make sure, we're not putting the teachers in a position that is more difficult than it needs to be,
Thank you.
Unfortunately, the party there just doesn't have any more space,
yeah.
sad to say.
And
I
so-
did have one more. I
Okay,
apologize,
Mr.
Mr.
Dixon.
I don't recall, and I meant to look it up and I apologize because I didn't. What was the number like around, did we add kids based on this? And I know it changes daily, but where were we like in June and where are we now? As far as number of students total, I'm not talking, different.
We're lower than we were in June,
It seems like middle school.
yeah, it's across the board, even the
Is
high
it?
school, we're down under 2,000 now.
Okay.
I think this is the first time we've been under
I was just
2,000,
worried about
and
the funding for next year when we turn the number in.
it's
that's
a
all.
real worry, yeah.
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 Okay, I kind of follow the,
Mr. Mayor? Through the chair, the 8th grade is going to the 9th,
Mhm.
is that 530? Just want to confirm what the number is.
So right now, there are
Where are you looking?
enrolled starting for next year, 553
553.
students enrolled in 8th grade. And there are 513 9th graders enrolled at Riviera High School, 39 enrolled at City Lab.
So what's going into the 9th grade this year? Coming from the 8th.
So that would be my quick math, 552.
That's including City Lab.
That includes City Lab.
Okay, because I thought we were in the 4s after,
Yeah, me too.
after the private schools and the vocational schools and everything.
$552.
I know Robin spent some time refining this today, and this is what we have in Power School,
Okay.
so. It may be that there are some students who are still enrolled in Riviera Public Schools that families have made decisions to go to
I know.
Pope John or Malden
doesn't
Catholic
exist
or,
I'm not
Um,
going to Pope John.
No, definitely not.
oh, it doesn't.
No.
No, it's gone.
All right, Walden Catholic, how about that one?
St. John,
Yeah.
St. John, not Pope John.
Oh, okay, St. John, sorry. My point is, there may be some kids who haven't let us know that they've decided to go elsewhere, and you might see that adjustment in September. We'll run these numbers for you again at the September meeting, because they usually are. We'll still see more kids. It won't be the kind of influx that we typically see in the summer. But we will see kids that will enroll in the next couple of weeks. Especially families that don't realize we go back a week before Labor Day. Who will come in next week to enroll and then won't start until the following.
So this is a silly question. If students are electing to go elsewhere as opposed to RHS, are they required to let us know? Do we communicate with them and ask them whether they do, or do we just kind of have to wait and see who shows up?
Most of them communicate with us because they want to get the
Okay.
students,
Records?
records and
Okay.
all of that
Okay.
stuff to go with them, but there are always some people who don't. And I'll say that's more typical when the student's going to some kind of a public school, whether it's in another district or a charter school or whatever the case may be. Often when they go into a private school, they don't require the previous records, so that in that case, it might be that the family is so focused on getting the child enrolled in the new
Not even
school, they're
thinking.
not even thinking about
Okay.
letting us know, and then when they haven't shown up for a few days and we're calling and saying, where's so-and-so, they let us know, oh, he's going to such and such other school.
Okay,
All washes out after a few weeks, I'm sure.
It does, yeah, the next few weeks, all of this data will be refined, so we'll run it through again for the
Yeah.
September meeting. The high school class sizes are also in good shape. We ran a report that has them listed out by department. So all of our business classes are averaging at 20.7. Elective classes are averaging at 21. EL classes are at 15.4. Fine arts is at 18.5. I think our highest one is physical education, which is averaging 21.7, which is typical. And our lowest, of course, is the special education classes, which are averaging 8.5. And the rest are somewhere in between those two numbers.
All right. Personnel, we have new hires and the retirements, resignations. You provide that.
mhm.
Yeah, there's a list.
I don't have any.
Yeah.
We met a good group of new educators last week. Very nice.
Very
I was impressed with all of them, you know. And we had a lot of people from traveling, not just from out of state, but from out of the country.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, I met a few
pretty
of them,
cool
great.
to get such a unique background on educators.
yeah, and we have, through our educator diversification grant with, DESI, we have 5 staff members who have come to us, on visas from other countries, so that's really
What
exciting
was
to
it?
have them.
3 from China. And there was a few from Africa.
Yeah, I'm not gonna remember offhand
It was-
exactly.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Impressed, and these were, believe it or not, a lot of American-born educators that were teaching in China.
Yeah,
That
and
could
came
be-
back, that's true.
So it's
Yeah.
really unique.
Yep.
I'm sure the perspective will be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great to have
Awesome.
that kind of a worldly experience that they can not only bring to the rest of us who have only taught in the United States, but for our students who are here from other countries to have that understanding, I think is great. I will share that we currently have 9 open positions. 5 of them are at the high school. 1 at City Lab, 2 at Garfield Middle, and 1 at the Rumney Marsh. Those numbers do not reflect some people who may have signed paperwork today, where, running 1,000 miles an hour, trying to get things done, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of those positions filled in the coming days. Likewise, we received a resignation today, and I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 more of those come in over the course of the next week, because that always happens at the start of the school year when folks find their dream job in the community they live in, or in a neighboring town that cuts their commute by 2 hours every day, or a variety of other things. So there'll still be adjustments as we go on, but yeah, this is the best position we've been in for hiring, and I don't know, since COVID.
Diane,
Yep,
I just wanted, I know there's 5 or 6 of the educators that are on the list were here, but they didn't get licensed, and now they're licensed, and I just thank them for pursuing it and keep going, and glad they're so back.
Thank you. That's a really good point. There were a number of people, as you know, that the school committee knows at the end of the school year that were on our no longer with us employment list. A number of them went and did what they needed to do and got their licenses, and we were able to welcome them back. So we're really excited about that. It is always helpful to our students and to their colleagues when somebody is coming back with experience that knows the school, that knows the district. And in as many cases as we could, they went back to the exact same position that they left. So we're excited about that as well.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. And so school field trips, acceptance of gifts and donations, I don't.
Neither,
Nothing yet.
none of them.
School field trips, nothing, and any late communications to be addressed? Okay, so I know the lottery update and transportation update is something that is to be discussed, so.
Yeah, so just briefly, I had mentioned that we're working with the city planning office to look into how we can think about neighborhood schools at the middle level so that we can move away from the lottery. And if that's viable to do. And I did do a check-in with Tom Sawarski today to see where we are, that he has reached out to MAPC, which is the Massachusetts Planning.
Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
Metro, you said it.
Wait, what's the acronym?
MAPC.
Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And they're, are they a quasi-governmental agency, Pat, or independent?
They're independent, no, they are, but we work with them on a number of different programs, and they're very familiar with, obviously, all things planning in community, and you know, we've been a member of the MAPC for probably well over a decade.
Yeah.
A lot of advocacy, a lot of grant funding support, and
And I know they have big operations that do all kinds of data analysis and that piece. They're the ones who worked with the city on redistricting the wards a few years back, a couple years back. And so Tom is anticipating that he's gonna have a scope of work proposal from them next week. They've already said to him that there are gonna be two different paths that they can take. The first one is gonna be the free resources that they provide to municipalities, which, you know, the price is right. But what they're able to generate may not be exactly what we're looking for. So they're also gonna include proposals for them to do a full data analysis, look at all of our enrollments and projected enrollments, the city's projected census data, all of that kind of stuff, and really craft exactly what we want. And they'll have that scope of work outlined for Tom, he anticipates next week, along with what that would cost. And so at that point, we should look at it and say, do we want to spend this money and do it this way? Do we want to not spend the money and do it this way? Tom said that they'll have like 3 different scopes of work that we can look at different price points, and see exactly what the school committee wants to do. From there, he said they'll look at enrollment data from grades 1 through 7, and map out heat maps for where they are around each of the 3 schools. They can craft different scenarios based on what the school committee's predetermined criteria are gonna be. And then bring it back to the school committee to see what direction you wanna go in. And he did tell them that he needs all of that done by December, so that the school committee can have time to look at what the different options are and decide how they wanna proceed, either at the December meeting or at the January meeting.
Quick question.
Mhm.
So we have the Whalen and Garfield. Those are already neighborhood schools in a sense, right? The elementary schools. Would those numbers help us to like gauge?
That's a good question. I would.
Do you know what I mean? Like
with that, yeah.
if we did our own, if we
If
did
we
our own
left the
assessment, I'm just
neighborhood the
curious.
same as
As
the elementary.
Would that give us some
Well,
idea?
and that's the kind of thing that MAPC will do for us. I mean,
Okay.
I can try to look at some of that analysis.
If I could, Mr. Mayor. You had said at a meeting prior, and I wasn't, I had to think about it, and then, but I think you were right. If let's say, just humor me, just say Paul Revere and Lincoln School kids go to, say, Rumney, just say.
Mhm.
If, what my concern, I guess, with the mapping part is, if I went to school with someone for like 5 years or 6 years, you know, say kindergarten through 5th grade, so I've been with them for 6 years, because I live one street over. Possibly, I'm going to a different middle school than my, you know, childhood friends, so to speak. So when you had said these two schools will go here and these two schools will go there, at first I wasn't sure if that was the right approach, but after thinking about it, I agree with you.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
I,
mean, I'm just saying, if I went to school with someone for 6 years and you become my best friend. And now I'm going to a different school because I live either at the end of a long street or the next street over. I understand because of the lottery, it does that now,
that's what
but,
happens now.
right, and I get it, but it just, I don't know how to explain to a parent. You know, my kid's been best friends with him for 6 years and he's going to this school and I'm going to this school because I'm one street over.
Mm.
And not because of, you know, if that happened at elementary level, it happened because that's where you live, but I kind of agree with your approach, you know, whatever schools they were, you know, these two schools will go here, these two schools will go there, that type of thing. It really made sense. I have no problem with what Tom's doing and I thanked him, I saw him, and I said, thank you for helping us with that, but I did agree with your
Yeah.
approach, because you're gonna be breaking up, to me, you're gonna be breaking up some groups there.
And the challenge is, if you look back at the quick and dirty math that I did for that meeting, is that it wasn't balanced. If we said these two elementary schools go here as they exist, these two elementary schools go here, then we end up with much larger numbers of kids.
At SBA, I think, and
Potentially,
Yeah, yeah.
potentially, yeah.
Than we did at others, and
Yeah.
so that's why it needs a little bit more looking at and thoughtfulness. And MAPC can do things like they can project if there are going to be new residents in some of the buildings that are going up across the city. They have that data and can project that stuff into the model. Like, it might be that we decide that's exactly what we want to do, John, what you just said, because eventually there'll be more kids coming out living in the Beachmont neighborhood that are gonna go to the Garfield, and 5 years from now, it's gonna be balanced off anyway, or
That was my
like,
thought.
they have the skill set to do that, which I
There isn't
don't.
as much
They're
growth
gonna
at
go
West
running
Revere.
average as well. I think they're gonna do a running enrollment and,
I just,
again, these planners are pretty thoughtful, much more than I think.
Yeah, they
not-
do it for a
no-
living.
Not discrediting anyone, but this is what they do solely for a lot of different things.
I just,
was gonna say,
relationships broken over, you know, one
Right.
street over, that's a toughie.
And I will say, sorry, if I can say one more thing, Jackie. I imagine that if we go to neighborhood middle schools, we would still allow the non-neighborhood requests like we do for elementaries right now. And we would base that decision on enrollment, but we would consider what parents want if they want to be at a different middle school that's not their neighborhood middle school.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's good that we're going with experts who can thoughtfully present plans to us. I am a little scared of what that timeline can look like, because we all know, you contract, you get the scopes of work. December's gonna be here very soon and you need time to plan, so we'll take it one step at a time, but once we know what we're gonna go with, we discuss and we have options, and we as a committee have digested those options. What I would like, if the committee would entertain, is some type of community forum or a public hearing at one of our meetings where we hear from the community and parents, what options they want as well, so that what we vote on is also informed by what the community wants,
Absolutely.
and then we can make that final vote, hopefully by January, so that your team can start to work on things.
Definitely.
I think that's a great idea.
Good point.
one question also, I just want to reiterate, so we're basically, you're doing the redistricting, the refining of the lines to eliminate the lottery completely. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I'm getting
Yeah.
calls on funds, misappropriated funds, is transportation controlled by the school, it's actually controlled by the city. So I just want to have that clarified, that the goal is to eliminate the lottery completely.
Yeah, the goal is to see if there's a way that we can district the city in our middle schools so that we would no longer need to have a lottery.
Also too is, not just here, I serve on 2 other school committees, which have about 20 communities. And this transportation is not a Revere problem.
No,
It's a statewide.
Mhm.
Everybody is going through the same thing. And everybody I talk to, they ask that question, it is. I mean, there's some towns that they're charging per pupil for busing.
Mhm.
Some are eliminating completely. So I just want people to know that it's not a Revere thing. it's statewide.
Mhm.
Thank you. And that's good. And it's still, again, we all know that this was not a fun decision for anyone. And whether it's the city side, the school side, there's a shared responsibility and a shared onus. As mentioned, some communities charge for everything. They charge for after-school sports fees. They charge for every piece of equipment they get. They charge for the school transportation after school. So we've been,
Charge for buses.
they charge for regular transportation. So it's one of those where we haven't had to do that, but that statewide issue has been because of competition, not or lack thereof, rising, escalating costs, and unfunded mandates, quite frankly, and I don't want to ever position a parent against a district or a student against a student because someone's getting something that someone's not. But there's requirements in the state, we follow state law. To that point, every 3 years, and Dr. Kelly will bring this up, they go to the State House and they champion for reform when it comes to unfunded mandates and school transportation, issues, and it gets talked about and then it goes away. And, so I have not been privy to those conversations in the past. I can tell you that when they come up again at the State House, I'll be up there. I'll be asking our fellow residents to come and join us and the colleagues on the school committee. Hopefully we get a little more momentum with that. And I know that our state legislators and specifically Rep. Turco, we're meeting and he's all ears. And I know Rep. Janino as well will listen and advocate because they're getting information that is not consistent with reality. They're under the impression that we get 100% reimbursement for homelessness transportation. That's 100% false. There's that narrative up there at the state level that, oh no, they get 100% transportation reimbursement for homeless transportation. Not true. And I informed a rep that, and he was like, well, that's good to know. I want to hear more. And I'm thankful that he's willing to listen and hear that because I know he'll fight for us. I know Rep. Janino will fight for us. And I know that if more communities are doing this, then it might change. And so this problem has been longstanding. We have to deal with it, kind of have to break it and then rebuild it properly. And that's the unfortunate truth.
One more comment about the lottery for me, so people know is also if we don't have a plan yet by December, we can still make the vote by December to eliminate the lottery. So I think if we all want to agree on giving you time, we can make a timeline for our committee. By December, we make a decision. Hopefully the plans are ready so we can choose also what we're gonna do. But if not, we can at least make the decision on the lottery existence and then continue to work with MAPC to see what the new plan will be.
Yeah, I agree.
Fine.
Can you give a quick transportation
Yeah.
and we add 6 o'clock, add.
2 minutes, we got 2 minutes.
I will go, oh, sorry.
But there's still one more. Agenda item after that.
We can move the other agenda item to unfinished business, so we have time to discuss it at the 6 p.m.
This is unfinished business?
No, sorry.
It's transportation.
After transportation, there's one more item, the bench dedication. We can move that to the 6 p.m. since we don't have time.
Okay.
So I created a one pager, just gives you a snapshot summary as of today, actually. Of the families that took us up on the M7 MBTA cards, as well as the yellow bus if they live 2 miles or greater. And those that declined. What I did not list here, just for the sake of simplicity, are those that didn't respond. Or new students that still have it pending, like they just came into the district last week, so we gave them a little time. What I'd like to highlight for the committee is that after we did our initial round, right after that first meeting that we had about transportation, we expanded the high school down to 1.5. So if you remember initially for the MBTA card, the high school was at 2 miles or greater. We knocked it down a half mile and offered it to more families because we had a surplus after that first round.
Excellent, yeah.
Thank you.
We're going into the school year with a surplus, so we basically are funded for 820 cards, and if you look at the fourth line from the top, right now we have 620, so we have about 200 cards still left. The number of kids that are outstanding right now does not exceed 200, so we're well within budget. And I think we'll take another kind of analysis and maybe expand it down a little more.
Yeah, what about like after school programs or co-ops or,
Yeah, exactly, right.
those types of things
Yep.
offered to those students?
And so we just kind of want to like the enrollment numbers, we want to get through the first couple of weeks see what the final number is, and then to your point, put it out to those groups that might need it for some reason.
Thank you. Dr. Roach. At 6 P.M., we're gonna head over to the regular,
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
roll call. Well,
Yeah, I
we all-
think we have Stacy on. the-
roll call on adjournment. Ms. Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Sinella,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
yes,
Mr. Caggiano,
yes, you call my name, I say,
Ms. Mills, and Ms. Muckles.
Yeah.